So, based on that world of how work isn't working, I set out with another part of the story, which is about our personal relationship with technology. And this is a book called The Rise of the Humans. And there's a bit of the story that I'm going to tell you tonight. It's basically how we're missing the point of what technology offers us. We're misusing technology, and that misuse is basically diverting us from the potential that technology could offer us. And it starts here, a place I call the digital deluge. We live in a world where we're surrounded by information. And what I love about that is we talk about it like it's a new problem. Well, I would argue that since the invention of the printing press, our society has had access to more content than any single individual could consume in their entire lifetime. The fact that today, thanks to the internet and technology, we now have 10 times more or a bazillion times more, it doesn't matter. We've still got more. But what really makes it special, what really makes the problem extreme today, is these bloody things. These beautiful, wonderful, engaging personal devices that are with us from the moment we wake up until the moment we go to sleep. Because thanks to them, I am now surrounded by too much information wherever I am, whatever I'm doing. Now be honest, who amongst you, the first thing you did this morning when you woke up? Check your phone. Last thing at night? And this is the problem, because the technology, for all that it's delivering, for all of the amazing things that technology has to offer us, most of us still live here. Who amongst you does not get enough email? Right? I haven't even got to write a punchline to that joke. We get the pay. This was not supposed to be the gift of technology, but it is simply because we're using it in the wrong way. And we're left in a combination of all of these things, a place where we have a problem with the process of work, we have a problem with the place of work, we have problems with the tools of work. Forget working smarter is not an option. The only choice we have as employees is simply to work harder, send more emails. But the problem is, the employees don't want to work harder. Nobody wants to work hard anymore. Why? Because they're not engaged. Employees are not connected to the purpose of their organization. Employee engagement, I would argue, is one of the biggest challenges our businesses face. And the problem of engagement is horrific. If you look at the stats, if you look at the numbers, only 17% of the UK workforce is engaged. That means 83% of the people in your organization are disengaged, not really that bothered. That's terrible, right? And I'm not making any moral judgment about whether it's better to live to work or work to live. The reality is, given how long we will all spend at work in our working lives, the thought of not being engaged terrifies me. And then it doesn't take a genius to figure out the correlation between disengaged employees and the outcome or productivity of the organization. The UK government did a report back in 2009 called the McCloud Report, and it basically showed that the problem of engagement, disengagement in the UK economy robs us of 44 billion quid a year in lost productivity. This is the challenge. So if the employees don't care, then maybe it's up to us in technology to change the opportunity. Maybe you're all sitting there thinking, well, hang on a minute, weren't all you guys in IT supposed to fix this? Well, do you know what we did? And we fixed it for a while. It was okay. But the real issue with how we use technology today is we still use it to replicate old ways of working. Let me give you an example. I'm going to pick on email a lot tonight. I love email, but we abuse it. All email is essentially the digital form of an old analog business process we had called the office memo. Do you remember those days? You used to go to the cupboard, grab a piece of paper, I'd scratch out your name, scratch out my name, scratch out a message, it would go in an envelope. Brilliant. And what happened to that? Well, we happened to that. The genius is in IT, right? We took that process, man, we digitized it, we made it quick, we made it efficient, we made it slick, we made it cheap. And now what's happened? We send too much email. We didn't once say, hang on a minute, maybe there's a different way we could communicate. Maybe we don't have to communicate like this at all. Maybe we could do something. We took what we had and we just transported it into the digital economy. And this is the problem we have today. Most of us still work like Victorians. You could take a Victorian and put them in our office buildings, in our schools, in our hospitals, and they would recognize exactly where they were because nothing has fundamentally changed. And until we break that, until we think differently about how we work, the outcomes for our organizations, we are never, ever going to get to the gift that technology offers us. We have to break the digital barrier. We have to start thinking differently about what we can do. And it starts with some pretty simple things. The first thing we have to do is we have to reclaim the definition of work. Work is not somewhere you go. Work is not a destination. Work is an activity. It's something you do. And when you think about work in that context, fundamentally changes your approach. It changes what's possible. It starts to make you think differently about flexible working and the work-life balance. Let's talk about both of those things. Flexible working. I love flexible working, but it's probably one of the most misconstrued, misunderstood concepts of our time. Because when I say flexible working, what most people hear is working from home. Well, funnily enough, working from home is working from home. Flexible working is something very different. It's basically choosing the most appropriate location to do the work I'm about to do that very day. It might be home, it might be my office, it might be the customer's premises, it might be a partner site, it might be some shared working space, or it might be a Starbucks down the road, but it's empowering people to make that choice, to work somewhere that's most conducive to the work that they have to do. And then there's the challenge of work-life balance, and I love that concept, right? The fact that work and life should be two separate things. How many of you live in a world where your work and life is a separate entity? To me, it's just life. And the technology enables me to make choices in my day, to choose where I should be, what I should be doing. I don't need to be stuck to a 9 to 5. I'm measured in different ways. So I can use the technology to make choices that help me to make the most of the moments that matter in my life. If I need to be at home with my family, I can choose to do that. If I need to be here with you in the evening, I can choose to do that. The technology makes that possible. The culture of the organization I work for makes that possible. And so that world where we change the definition of work, we change our approach to flexible working, and we get rid of this misnomer, which is work-life balance, sets us up for success. And then there's how we collaborate. And something wonderful is starting to happen in our organizations, because we now have a large population inside our organizations who are used to communicating and collaborating in an entirely different way. And these are the people using social media. How many of you use social media here? And social media is wonderful. Now let's define social media. I'm not talking about the messages, right? The silly messages we send every day. Just had the world's best coffee, send, presenting at CIPD, woohoo, look at me, send, right? That's just noise, right? That's just rubbish. But it's the choice we make to share by default that makes social really special. People see how powerful that is. They see what happens when you approach a problem and your first response is to share the things you know. Now contrast that to the way that most organizations either used to work or some still work this way today. These are worlds where knowledge is power. These are worlds where your first starting point, the starting point is, I'm sharing nothing, right? That's why I start. Knowledge is, but why would I give any of that away? And what's happening inside organizations is the people who've seen the light, they've seen that if you approach problems and you start by sharing by default, it fundamentally changes the agility and the ability for knowledge to flow freely through your organization. And it delivers dramatically different results. And they're starting to bang into each other because they're banging up against this old culture, which is about email and your inbox. Now again, email is a wonderful tool, but email was designed for a different style of communication. It was designed for a world where I'm going to send a specific individual, probably one, a specific piece of information, maybe some attachments. It was not meant to CC everybody else. It was not meant for those grandstanding emails where you send a message to the project manager, CC your boss, look how smart I am, right? Or you're doing it to dob someone and look how stupid they were, right? It was not meant for those things. But the real problem with email is email locks away knowledge. It's a lovely phrase from a guy called Bill French that says, email is where knowledge goes to die. Think about it, because nobody can see your inbox. I think about my inbox, right, and it's as overflowing as yours is. And I think about all of the value that's in my inbox that could be accessed by my other colleagues, except for the fact it's waiting to pass through the bottleneck. And the bottleneck is me. That knowledge lies wasted until I can process it. And I don't work on anything top secret. I don't work on anything confidential. There's nothing that couldn't be shared. But it's only because the culture prevents me from working in that way. So as we start to move forward, there are new tools emerging, new ways of working that really start to take the principles that we know about working with social that change how we collaborate.